Hi guys, this is Miku, really your justice analyst. The second semi-final has concluded, so it's time to talk about the countries which made it to the final and which are unfortunately out. What a great show it was again. This time I was really privileged to be able to see the show also live from Marina. I have been to the last dress rehearsal, so from the afternoon show of the same day. So I also got this t-shirt and it was actually absolutely incredible to see all these artists live on stage, to see how all the performances are getting prepared, to also sing along together with Elena Paparizou, Serta Berner and Charlotte Perelli. So this was really such an experience. I absolutely loved it. And at the end of the day, when it comes to the results, Eurovision never stops surprising us, doesn't it? Oh my god, you got me on. Well, the first non-qualifier is Malta. I think we all saw it coming, so it was not really a huge surprise, even though we all still had a little bit of hope because Sara Bonnici did such a great job. Also, I have to say the camera work was one of the best in the performance of Malta. In general, the color scheme, the dancing, everything was really on point. She just really suffered from the fact that we had a couple of pops in this semi-final, also performed by the female artists, so such as Georgia or Austria. And I think the song of Malta was the most forgettable of the three. It was also performed first. So when people wanted to vote for some dancey songs, they were probably choosing the other two. So unfortunately, Malta we will not see in the final, but I'm sure Sarah can definitely be proud of her performance. So wrong, I won't go Albania. Well, with all my love to the singer, it was kind of clear she will not qualify. The song is just not powerful enough. Her vocals, in the end of the day, at the final live performance were a little bit too shaky, I would say. They were not really so impressive as they usually were. So I think this also let her down a little bit. I'm really happy that in the end they chose a dress which suits her much better than the ones which we saw in the rehearsals. She looked really stunning. I'm not sure that the hairpiece was really necessary, but this turquoise color has suited her super well and she looked gorgeous. But the dancers, the background visuals were giving us absolutely nothing. Also the ending of the song, when it, becomes more dancey, it was kind of more chaotic, I would say. It didn't really fit to the rest of the performance. I really enjoyed the rapping part in the second verse. I think they should have used more in the performance. This is what makes the song stand out. So unfortunately, it didn't stand out enough, and Albania is not in the finals. Czechia. I have to say it's absolutely mind-blowing how they can elevate the songs from their national selection to Eurovision. Also Vesna has proven it to us last year. So it was such a great performance with such great charisma. Aiko was quite stable vocally in most of the parts. They had a very, very expensive looking visuals. I think the way how they used these huge screens hanging from the ceiling was one of the best in this whole competition. So they really cleverly used all their possibilities, a lot of fire. So I think the final was really getting closer and closer for them. Unfortunately, the song itself was not strong enough to get Czechia into the final, but I think Aiko and her team did an absolutely great job. And if Czechia has shown us how to elevate the song from their national selection for Eurovision stage, Denmark hasn't really shown the same path. I think the stage in which they had in the Dansk Melody Grand Prix with a lot of light, it was like an explosion of light, looked really effective. It suited the song so well, it suited the white dress of Saba so well. So it was quite disappointing for me to see that their Eurovision visuals were not as strong. Still, Saba looked super effective, I would say, in like second verse, second chorus as well, when she's playing with the sand in the background, like pulling it off her dress and so on. This looked pretty cool. But apart from that, I think it didn't really captivate so much. Even Dansk Melody Grand Prix, it didn't look aesthetic because of all these crazy lights in the background. Now in Eurovision, it definitely looked static. Also, her vocals were a bit questionable. When I was there in the arena, her performance the first verse was really terrifying. Her voice even cracked at some point of time, so I was really very much concerned. But then when I was watching the live performance in the second semi-final, I think she did actually quite a good job. There were, of course, some yeah, lack of support, lack of stability with those lower tones. But apart from that, she did very well. And I think her belting with the high notes is absolutely stunning, especially for such not really experienced singer. So I hope she has a great career ahead of her, and I really hope Denmark will qualify next year. Oh, San Marino, from being such an impressive grower after the rehearsals, they came into this state of a real train wreck with their semi-final performance. I think it looked really messy. The beginning is really captivating, but afterwards, more or less, nothing super interesting is happening. So kind of like I have predicted after the rehearsals, actually. And vocally, which was the most surprising part for me, it didn't sound good at all. When I was in the arena, actually the backing vocals were much louder than the lead singer, so it really sounded kind of off. And when I was watching the TV broadcast, I thought there the whole mixing will be perfect, but the lead singer was really struggling in the chorus. I'm not sure if she was just performing too much and her voice got tired, or maybe she got sick on that day. I'm not really sure, but she was basically skipping most of the notes in the refrain, just screaming them a little bit, not really hitting them. So the choruses were just a mess and the whole performance didn't really come together. I loved the color scheme, this pink and black, it looked pretty cool, but it was definitely not enough for them to qualify. And I was also expecting a lot more from this kind of dark flamenco part which comes before the last chorus. I was really expecting some very cool dance and very striking visuals, but there were just two dancers with this kind of skeleton costumes or something doing not really much, nothing really memorable what would stay with me till the end of the show. So yeah, I think it's a missed potential, and for me it is really strange to see now the comments from San Marino's delegation stating that maybe they should withdraw because small nations don't have a chance. This performance was just unfortunately not as good as many others. I think it's no surprise that he didn't manage to qualify. I was already ranking his chances to qualify was just 20% after I saw the rehearsals, but it's still one of the best songs of this year for me. It's in my personal top 5 songs, but this performance, well, what should I say? In general, this ballad puts his vocal into focus, so it has to be absolutely flawless in order for the song to shine. And in the end of the day, his vocals were quite shaky, but I think even a bigger problem was his vocal tone itself. It sounds very different in comparison to the voices we are used to from, other famous singers. So also it is much more rough than it is, for example, in the MP3 cut, in the, processed version of the song. Unfortunately, with Mustii, even with all his confidence on stage, he looked really great on stage. There was just no way Belgium would qualify, so I wouldn't be surprised to see if Belgium maybe even ranked last or second to last in the semi-final. And now let's move to the 10 countries which managed to qualify to the final, and the first one will be the most shocking one. What a huge surprise it was to hear Latvia announced as first. So before I will discuss Latvian entry, please subscribe to my channel if you still haven't. There are so many of you watching my videos not subscribing. It would really help my channel a lot to grow and to be noticed more by the YouTube algorithm. So thank you so much. And now let's get back to the Latvian song. So I was ranking the chances of Dons to qualify to the final as 30%. He was actually my 12th. So after Denmark being 10th and Malta being 11th. So I was still having hope for him. Generally, of course, such entries are much higher appreciated by the juries than by the televoters. So I was not really sure if the support from the televoters will be enough. Well, it was, which is great to hear. So it means we don't necessarily need juries back if the songs like this can qualify also with the televoters. I absolutely loved the song and his performance. Maybe you remember from my initial reaction video, I was so moved by the song. I thought it is a great performance and that Latvia should do well. And when I was watching his absolutely stunning performance and in the end he started to cry, he became so emotional. I have to say I almost started to cry myself, because in this moment I just realized, wow, this great vocalist, this amazing song will be probably out by tonight, and it's such injustice, and it's only because of the fact that the juries are not voting in the semifinals. It really made me emotional, and then when I have heard his name being announced, I just couldn't believe. I was so happy for Dons. So even if it was the only country which I, let's say, got wrong in my initial prediction for the semi-final, this was probably the one which I was the most happy about. So such a relief, and I'm really sure that the juries will rank him as he deserves in the final. Probably the televoters will not support him anymore, but their support was already more than enough to get him to the Eurovision final. Well, Austrian song is just made to be performed in arenas in front of the crowd. So when I was there in Malmö, it was such a vibe. I think the whole arena almost got up on their feet and started to dance along with Kaleen. So such a high energy. Unfortunately, when I was watching the performance on TV, it was not as striking as it was from the arena. In this case, the problem was that she was not really smiling so much. She was not really looking at the camera so much, which was for me very surprising. So there was no feeling of like building up a very close personal connection. Most of the times when camera is looking at Kaleen, she's looking at the audience, she's looking, I don't know, at the dancers, somewhere else, but not to the camera. I really hope maybe they will still work on it a little bit until the final, even though now you don't really have much time to change anything. In general, I was super relieved to hear her name being announced as well, because I was not so sure. Her vocals were not always the best, and I think it was not she was singing not good. It's just the MP3 version was processed to perfection, and this lack of all this filtering on her voice in the Eurovision was really very much noticeable. It will be a great entry to close the show. So I really hope she will do well, at least with the televoters. The juries will definitely don't like that. What are you saying? That's another song which is just made to be performed in front of the crowd. It was such a vibe. The whole arena was singing along, partying along with him. So it was absolutely great, such high energy. But when you watch the TV performance, then all the flaws in his vocal performance are very much noticeable. It really reminded me partially of Karia from last year. Joost has such a great charisma, so you really enjoy watching him, but unfortunately, no singing voice. By the juries, it will not be ranked so high, but the televoters might really stand behind this, and we should not forget that the song already became a huge hit. Norway. Well, their qualification came by no surprise. It's such a great band. They have such strong identity. You know, they are very unique in comparison to all other contestants. I think vocally it was on point. It looked great. For me, the only thing which I was lacking was those inserts of like Norwegian nature or something like that, which we had in the Norwegian selection. I'm not sure if it was just not allowed for Eurovision. Maybe you have to really film only the things which you can see on stage, or they just decided, well, we don't need that. But I think this is something what was really making this performance stand out in the Norwegian Melody Grand Prix. And without this insert, well, I think especially this time after Israel and before Netherlands, I think Norway was kind of a little bit forgotten between those two entries, which definitely grabbed a lot of attention. So let's see how they will do in the final. I'm very curious. The next country we'll talk about is, of course, Israel. So in general, I have to say, when I was watching this performance in the arena, I was absolutely mesmerized. Well, Marina is such an incredible, charismatic artist. I absolutely loved her attitude. I think the performance was quite provocative. I really loved how they used this kind of social media elements in the performance. Looked very, very interesting, very, very cool. Also, when I was there in Malmö Arena, the whole arena wanted to dance along with her, especially on this ta-ta-ta-ta part. It sounded absolutely great. Well, Marina vocally was maybe not the most impressive artist when I was watching the TV picture. She wanted to move a lot. She was very emotional on stage. So, of course, all these things They add some cracks into your vocals. They remove the stability which you might have in your voice. So I hope she will do a little bit better vocally in the final. But I think this song is in any case targeting televoters much more than the juries. So I hope the televoters will have enough love also for Greece in the Eurovision final. Well, for some reason, most of the Eurovision fans were not really believing in this song, even though I was ranking their chances constantly by around 65%. Especially it was helpful for them that Belgium had quite a disastrous performance, so it really helped Estonia to stand out even more. It was such a great party atmosphere. The people in the arena were vibing like crazy with this one, especially when this memorable dancing routine comes towards the chorus, or maybe after like the beginning of the song. I'm not really sure when exactly it starts. Yeah, it's very infectious, great party track, and I would say it's not even worse of a party track than Europapa. First of all, wow. What incredible, impressive vocals with so much movement on stage. It is incredibly hard to sing already like how they do. But when you move on this disc, when it's turning around, you're sometimes, trying to pull your body down, backwards and so on. So what they were doing was phenomenal. With this, still keeping the stable vocals, doing all this falsetto, operatic singing, it is mind-blowing. I have to say, when I was in the arena, it was also very funny to see how the black-dressed guys were sometimes adjusting this disc so that Nemo is, falling from that one or climbing that one. So it's something what was, of course, left off camera. This performance is, of course, definitely made for the TV. When you watch it from the arena, you see all these imperfections around it, but when you watch the final product on the TV, it's just flawless. So Nemo did such a great job, and I think this whole staging was so interesting, it was so creative. It's really a pinnacle of what Switzerland was giving to us in terms of staging in the last 5 years. Now I think it's time for them. So I'm really curious how the juries and the televoters will rank Nemo in the final, and I'm happy that the producers gave them a great spot, number 21 on the final, so they really still are in a game for winning. So about the next one, I have some doubts. So on one hand, Nutsa looked absolutely great. This wet hair effect really fits her well. Vocally, she was perfect. Also the visuals, this circle, ring of fire in the background looked absolutely captivating. Nutsa was singing this song so great. I was really waiting for the slow note in the second verse to see if she will hit that or not. She really has hit this note perfectly, and I was just wondering, why are cameras not showing us some kind of close shot of Nutsa at this point to really highlight this impressive moment? Why is her microphone not loud enough that we even hear this tone properly? So I think there were some strange decisions behind that. So Georgian performance really misses, the target audience, the clear vision, what they want to achieve, whom they want to attract with the song, because vocally was great, but was not highlighting this too much so that the juries would stand behind that, or people would be like, oh wow, yeah. When it comes to the dancing and the whole performance, it was not sexual or captivating enough so that the televoters would want to dance with her, would want to vote for her. So there they also missed a bit the mark. So I was really a bit concerned even for Georgia qualification in the end, because there were just few countries to be announced, even though I was ranking their chances very, very high to qualify. At this point of time, I got concerned. So I really hope she will do good in the final. But I think for Georgia, the main thing was to break this non-qualification streak, and now it's done. And the last qualifier was, of course, super predictable, so I was quite surprised why the producers left Armenia to be announced last. They gave us such a party, probably it was the most charismatic and infectious song of this semi-final. Armenia basically brought us culture, brought us high energy, brought us all these national instruments, so what else do you need from the Eurovision song? So they really did super well, and I really hope that they will show a great result in the Eurovision final. The only thing which I would have maybe added to the performance would be some dancer who would not just vibe with the song, but would show us maybe some traditional Armenian dance or something like that. But it was still great. So this is how the second semi-final has concluded. And now let's take a look at my predictions before the semi-final, so after the rehearsals, and see how much I got right or wrong. So as you can see on your screen, the 10 countries which were qualifying were to 90% the correct ones. Just my last one, my 10th place, about whom I was the most unsure, it was Denmark. Didn't really make it through, but it was quite clear after we saw the live performance. And as you can see from my most probable 5 non-qualifying countries, the top one, Latvia, who was ranked with 30%, actually made it through. So I think it was surprising for everyone. I would have ranked him much higher if there would be juries voting in the semi-final, but generally the televoters were not standing behind such songs. But I was very happy that they proved me wrong. So this was my opinion about all the participants of the semi-final. I hope you agree with me about the most, but please let me know down below in the comments for which songs you think I'm maybe underestimating or overestimating them. I'm quite curious to hear from you. I hope to release my prediction video for the Eurovision final very soon if the time allows. So please don't forget to like this video, to subscribe if you still haven't for some reason, and I will see you very soon in my next video. Bye bye.